guys, and welcome to today's video. So in today's video, I'm going to be testing out, giving another chance to the whole silicone sponge trend. You guys know earlier this year it was all the rage. Silicone sponges were everything. Those silly sponges were all over YouTube, all over social media. I gave them a shot and I just wasn't impressed. But because that trend did happen and was so popular, almost 9-10 months later, we're now seeing brands that we know and love come out with dupes of the original silly sponge. Most notably, Real Techniques just came out with a silicone sponge, and e.l.f. Cosmetics just launched some silicone sponges as well. So I'm gonna be playing around with them, giving this whole craze one more shot because I did not like it the first time I tried it, but why not? I'm always up for second chances. So I'm gonna be testing out their large silicone sponge, their small one, as well as their new highlighter blender, which is more of a traditional looking sponge. It reminds me a lot of the Real Techniques sponge in terms of shape. And I will go ahead and tell you guys one of these sponges is officially the best e.l.f. sponge on the market, period. So if you're interested in finding out which one that is, then just keep on watching. Okay, so I have two different duos to play around with today. The first one is the silicone blender duo, and the second is the silicone blender and highlighting sponge duo. It looks like the top sponge in both of these is the same, so there's really 3 sponges to play around with, but I'm gonna go ahead and start with the double silicone one just because I'm super curious about it. Okay, so right off the bat, just feeling these, they feel a lot smushier and softer than any other silicone sponge that I've ever felt, and they both have really pretty sparkles running through them. One thing I'm noticing is the larger one is a teardrop shape and then kind of flat on the back. The other one is a smaller version of the same thing, but this one does have somewhere to slip your finger, which is really, really nice. Okay, so it says to use the larger silicone blender for large areas of the face like forehead and cheeks, and the other with targeted applications like concealer, and then it says to use a blending brush to buff out to a flawless finish. So I feel like that's an important thing to note. They're not saying you're gonna totally get a flawless finish just using these. They're saying to go in with a buffing brush once applied to make everything perfect. Okay, so moving on to the true test, which is foundation. I'm gonna be mixing 2 of my very favorite foundations so that I know for sure if this works or not, because I know how wonderful these foundations apply. And it does say on the directions to apply half of your usual amount of foundation and then gently swipe the product across your face and bounce out to an even application. I'm gonna apply a half a pump of this one and mix it with a half a pump of this one. All right, I'm just dipping it on the back of my hand. Got about that much, and I'm gonna apply it to this side of my face. So you can see on first stroke like that, it's showing all of my pores, which is what I didn't like about these the last time, but we'll see if it actually does blend it in. Now it says to push it in. So right off the bat, I definitely used a lot less product than I usually do to cover this entire side of my face. And I would say it looks really, really good everywhere except for where my pores are the largest. I feel like my pores are a little bit more accentuated than they are typically when I use a beauty blender or a brush to really buff it into where I have the larger pores. But kind of on my cheek area, on my forehead, I feel like everywhere else it applied really evenly, really beautifully, and it felt super soft on the face. But for this side of my face, even though it's called the highlighter sponge, it looks like a Real Techniques sponge, and I really want to try it with foundation on this side of my face just to test it out. It's like black with sparkles running through it, and it's shaped just like the Real Techniques sponge. All right, I'm gonna go dampen this and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just dampened this and got super excited because it feels so smushy and soft. I'm not gonna get my hopes up. Let's go ahead and apply with the sponge to this side of my face. This video was supposed to be about the silicone sponges, but we just found the best e.l.f. blending sponge ever. I know it's called their highlighter sponge, but just for foundation application, this just applied my foundation very similar to the way my Real Techniques one applies foundation. It's so soft, so smushy. I am so excited right now. Now we're on a roll, so let's go ahead and try this one as well. This is their smaller silicone sponge, and I'm gonna put my fingers through here, which I feel like is really helpful. Use my trusty Maybelline Fit Me Concealer underneath my eyes and blend it out. This just did an amazing job of getting my concealer spread all over the areas that I want it to. I still do want to go in with my finger and just kind of tap in a little bit more, and other than that, I feel like it did a perfect job of blending out my concealer. And this shape is perfect for blending out under eye concealer, and I love the little handle in the back. You guys, I honestly thought this was going to be a fail video because I'm never a fan of these silicone sponges. I have not yet found an e.l.f. sponge, like an e.l.f. blending sponge that I actually like. You guys know I had one of their sponges in my worst sponges from the drugstore video, but this is like completely blowing my mind right now. So I want to try the same concealer on this side using the smaller end of this sponge and see how it does blending out concealer as well. Again, look at how flawlessly that just blended out my concealer. Obviously, because this is more of a traditional sponge, it soaked up more product than this side did, but I also don't need to go back in with my finger and blend anything out. But I'm gonna go ahead, finish up the rest of my makeup, and be back with my final thoughts. Hey guys, so I'm back. I just finished up the rest of my makeup quickly, and I wanna go ahead and dive right into my final thoughts. So obviously there were two different sets here offered. The first set including this larger silicone blender as well as the smaller one with the little handle, and the other included that same smaller silicone one with their highlighting sponge. So let's go ahead and go in order of how I used it, starting with this one. So this feels better, like I said, than any other silicone sponge that I've used. It feels really, really soft. It doesn't feel like you're slapping yourself in the face, which is how I felt with every other silicone sponge that I've tried. However, I think it's a little bit large. Like if you look at it in comparison to my face, this takes up a pretty large percentage of the size of my face. So I find it to be a little bit awkwardly sized, a little bit too big, and even though it did a better job than other silicone sponges I've tried, I still felt like my pores were accentuated in the areas where I have larger pores. So overall, I would say this is better than any other that I've tried, but I still probably wouldn't reach for it again. This smaller silicone sponge has me almost becoming a silicone sponge believer. This did a really good job of blending out the concealer underneath my eyes. That said, I still had to go in with my finger. So will I continue that kind of two-step process rather than just going in with my finger? I think I'll continue to try it, see if it's something I start incorporating in my routine or if it's something that falls off quickly. And I'm just excited about it now because it's better than what I'm used to. And then last, and the surprising star of the show, was this highlighter sponge. Like this came out of left field. I was expecting to use this with a highlighter. That's how it instructs you to use it on the back of the box. But out of curiosity, I wanted to use it as a foundation sponge. And I can tell you without a doubt in my mind, this is the best e.l.f. sponge on the market, period. I have tried them all and I've been disappointed by them all. This, whatever they did with this, they need to continue doing because this sponge is awesome. It's super squishy, really lightweight. It did an amazing job of blending everything out. It did absorb a good amount of product, but nothing compared to their other sponges that I've tried. I'll keep you guys posted on how this wears because sometimes a sponge can make an amazing first impression, but then the first time you wash it, it tears in half and then it's not so good. But first impression, like I said, best e.l.f. sponge on the market, period. So that is gonna be it for this surprisingly awesome first impression review. If you guys enjoy my first impression videos, definitely give this one a thumbs up to let me know. And don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. And I hope you have an amazing weekend.